going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to keep going forward with trying to restore the motor on my Evo. Today we're going to be working on trying to degrease a bunch of engine parts, specifically the intake manifold. And now that the engine is looking like this, we are pretty much done with trying to take things off of the motor, except for maybe this guy right here, the motor mount, and the motor mount down there. I will eventually be bringing my engine hoist up here to be able to support the motor, so I can take those two mounts off, take them out, try to de-rust them and clean them up. But let's jump over here and take a look at the intake manifold as it sits now. So this is the intake manifold for the Mitsubishi Evo 8. You can see it's pretty dirty. The car lived outside for, I don't know, maybe like a week before I looked in the engine bay and did start seeing some activity of like mice trying to move in. There was like an acorn there. So that's when I decided that it was time to move the car inside. So unfortunately, my loving wife, she started parking outside and the Evo then took over her spot. So we are gonna go ahead and continue going forward with trying to get this all cleaned up, trying to make all the OEM parts look as good as possible. But first, before we get going on that, we are going to go ahead and start taking off these lines here. All these bolts, all these little brackets, we're going to take all this off, get it in the media tumbler. And I mean, obviously we can't get these guys in the media tumbler because they're too big. We'll have to use wire wheels on these, but any of these smaller pieces, we're going to take them all off, throw them in the media tumbler, and go ahead trying to get all that rust removed and restored back to being at least somewhat more OEM, brand new looking. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and throw a little bit of PE Blaster on all these bolts, trying to get them a little bit loosened up, because as we know, bolts and things in general on Evo 8s do like to break. So we're going to go ahead, jump on doing the PE Blaster, and then we can continue on after that with trying to degrease this guy and get it nice and cleaned up. Alright, so with that time lapse being done, got pretty much everything off. The only thing left now is to crack off this throttle body from the intake manifold. So I'm just going to try. It's pretty stuck on there because it's been on there forever. And it wasn't actually that stuck on. All it took was a little bit of a push with a screwdriver. But with that being done, I'm going to take these last two guys right here off so we can get these all in the tumbler. And then we can go on with the degreasing. So this guy is not feeling super great, so I'm gonna try and go nice and slow with him. I'm actually gonna hit it with some PB Blaster, see if that can help out a little. I can't even tell if I'm actually even getting it out or if I'm just rounding the bolts out. This guy was feeling just fine, but his friend over here is honestly not. Yeah, that's not feeling good. So what I am going to do is just try to go a little bit at a time. It does look like it's moving. It doesn't look like I'm rounding the head or anything. So I'm just going to go nice and slow until the threads start finally releasing it. But it does look like we're making some progress, which for me is a pretty big deal, to be honest. Especially with this car. And we're out. Alright. Okay, so luckily that guy did not round out too much or break off in there, which is a pretty big deal for me. Like I said, so now I'm gonna go ahead, just get all these little bolts thrown in that tumbler, and then we'll be able to hopefully get these guys nice and cleaned up. And even if they're not brand new, they're gonna look a lot better than they are now. So let me jump on that. Now it is important, like I said in the past, to make sure you stay nice and organized. And in my case, with trying to put all these bolts together at one time in the tumbler to try to get as much out of the media as possible, it is important to make sure, like along the way off camera, I am taking videos on my phone to be able to just show that like this guy right here, the longer bolt, is actually for the throttle body. And then this one that looks very similar but it's a little bit shorter goes to this guy in the bottom here that I just took off. So it's just important to make sure that you do document and keep everything labeled and in baggies. I've said it before, but I can never stress it enough. It is really important. So with that being said, just go ahead, throw these guys back into the tumbler, and then I'll be able to get going on the degreasing process. Okay, so now that the intake manifold is completely taken apart, there's no more pipes, no more hoses, nothing connected, I can go ahead and start showing you some of the products that I have at my disposal. This is what we're working with here. I have used this guy before on trying to clean up the head on the front side of the motor because it was pretty disgusting and greasy when I first bought the car. It did work fine, but I picked up these couple of things today just at AutoZone. I believe I got this guy at just Home Depot. And this guy right here is a heavy duty gel cleaner. So this is more for things where if it's like the front of the block and you can't really, it's not a flat surface where it'll sit on it, the gel will help adhere to the block so it doesn't run down and then just completely disappear. This guy right here is what I'm going to try to use on here just to, you know, kind of take a look at it, see if it works, see what I think of it, because it is my first time using it. But what I am going to do is go ahead and I'm going to start by going through with just a brush, trying to clean up any of this loose dirt before we get the degreaser on. So I'm probably going to throw it on a time lapse, just me brushing it, going over it, and trying to get it as clean as I can before we start using the products. Okay, so as you can see, got all the loose dirt, grime, dust, acorn dust, got all of it off. It is looking better already, but obviously there are still some spots that are kind of greasy and disgusting. It's all baked on there just because of the engine heat and, you know, just the time. But so we're gonna go ahead, start on using this guy. What we are gonna do is, we're gonna go ahead and shake the can up a little bit, and we're just gonna hit it with a quick layer. So as you can see, I do have a little setup here with a catch mat underneath because it is kind of like brake clean where it's not really that thick, so it could run off. I do have a little cardboard set up behind it just to kind of catch any of the spray off because there is an outlet right there and I don't want to damage that obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this guy, pop this off, and it does come out pretty quick, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead, just give it a good coating. See, it comes out really strong and quick. So we're going to spray everything down and then we'll just let it kind of sit for a little while. And after that, we'll try and scrub it up and I'll let you guys know how it goes. Okay, so it's been sitting for a few minutes now. It doesn't look like super different, I guess. You can see, I mean, maybe it does look a tiny bit more shiny, but I probably will go ahead now, throw it on a time lapse and just kind of start scrubbing at it with a brush and seeing what we can get off from there. So enjoy the time lapse. Okay, so as you can see, it certainly has gotten a little bit cleaner. There are definitely still pockets in here of really caked in grease. A lot of the surface stuff has come off just with that spray. What I do think I need though is, I mean, you could continue sitting here with brushes just like this, and you could probably get this looking even nicer, but I want to try out this other product. I want to try the engine gel because I think it'll be able to sit on there a little bit better. I'll probably leave it on for a little bit longer, and then I think I probably will use my brass wire wheels with my drill just to try to make sure I can, or just to try to get it a little bit nicer looking. Try to get it a little bit more like brand new looking, because this obviously looks better, but what I'm going for with the Evo is I want it to look like brand new. So I will probably shoot some of that on. I'll show you if it's thicker, thinner, if it goes on harder. And one thing that I am a bad example about, didn't really remember, I should be wearing safety goggles because that stuff does spray and it can definitely bounce back. I luckily got nothing in my eyes, but for this next round, definitely going to go ahead and throw some safety goggles on. Okay, now with my proper safety attire on, I'm going to go ahead and use the heavy duty gel. I'm not really sure how fast it comes out, so we'll find out. Doesn't seem to be super jelly. I don't know if maybe as it sits, it'll thicken up a little bit to try to stay contoured to all the different surfaces. But, I mean, it looks a little bit more thick than the last stuff. But I'm going to go ahead, let that sit for a while, and then I will come back and try to use my drill with the wire wheel. Okay, so the gel degreaser has been sitting for a few minutes. As you can see, I do have my safety goggles on. I am going to go ahead and try and hit it with my drill, like I had mentioned previously. I'm going to start off with this guy right here. It's a brass-coated stainless steel brush. It's the biggest one that I have. It is going to be more so for like the bigger sections, and then as those get taken care of and there's smaller sections, I'll just go and use a smaller brush to try to get into little cracks. But got my safety goggles on. I'm going to go ahead and try and just see what I can get done. Probably put it on time lapse and hopefully come out on the other side with a very clean intake manifold. Got that all taken care of. As you can see in the time lapse, I used a lot of the drill in order to be able to get it the way it was. Take a look. There's obviously still some spots that aren't completely perfect. I think right in these cracks here, sort of down there, and these little crevices. I am going to have to get another wire wheel because the attachments have kind of gotten a little bit dull, and the brushes that I have are honestly just starting to get a little bent out. So once I get those new ones, I should be able to come in and touch these spots up. But overall, I am very happy with the results, very happy with the way things are going. If you look at the gasket here for the intake manifold, you can see it is a little bit chipped. There were some pieces that were left behind on the mating surface from the manifold to the head. So I just went through, used a brand new razor blade just to try to take some of that stuff off. And then I went back with the brush on the drill, and I very, very lightly hit just this surface just to try to take up any kind of loose dirt, because you honestly don't want to put a lot of pressure with the drill on the mating surface because you don't want it to warp or become unflat. But there are other options you could pursue if you didn't feel like doing all this manual labor and using these chemicals and the drill. What you could do is you could go ahead and do either a dry ice blasting, which obviously is something you probably would want to bring into a company to do, or you could go ahead and media blast it. I unfortunately don't have either of those, so I do have to go this route to degreasing it. And for what I'm using it for, honestly, I think this should be fine. Like I said, I will go back through once I get new brushes and new attachments for the drill to be able to go through and really touch this up and make it perfect. But honestly, just for the quick little detailing that I did today with just some basic chemicals you can get at any store, like any AutoZone or a Home Depot, and just some brushes and an attachment, I'm honestly super happy with the results and how it did come out. I mean, if you do look, it does look pretty new. Obviously you can tell there's some imperfections, but when you're dealing with a manifold that's from 2003, there's only so much you can really do on your own without the dry ice or the media blasting. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I got for this one. I guess next time what I'll probably do is go ahead, try to start touching up some of these brackets. I'll likely do most of it off camera. I mean, you can see like the throttle body, it's pretty old looking, pretty crusty. So like I said, once I get those new attachments, I'll try to run through and take these sensors off, take these hoses off, try to clean it up a bit so it looks nice. I will get a new gasket for this throttle body because this one's looking a little crusty and rusty and old as it is. But we'll continue on with account of the week. I'm gonna put it right there. Boop. So that account belongs to a guy who I just honestly happened to randomly meet one day in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. His name is Jamie. He does go to a lot of different car meets around the New England, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts area. He did have a really sick Forester that was slammed with I believe TE37s, but he has since sold it and moved on to another car. I'm not going to blow up anyone's spot, so you can follow him and figure out what he went ahead and got. But with that being said, if you guys did like the video, if you enjoy watching a guy work on a car, if you just came here to learn about degreasing some old motor parts, please do drop a comment, like, subscribe. It really does help grow the channel, and I really do appreciate it when you guys share the love, because honestly, I just want to keep making videos for people to enjoy, relax as entertainment, and maybe learn something. So I will link down below the playlist for the rest of the videos, so if you do want to get caught up onto how we got to this point and what we've been doing with the Evo, you can just go ahead and watch that. It's about 8-9 videos, I think. So with that, it's probably all I got for this one. So I will leave you guys with a peace out. Have a great day and keep wrenching.